Citing Afghanistan's statement, India has rejected Pakistan's claim that it had received a proposal to swap Indian national Kulbhushan Jadhav for a terrorist. India has asserted that the claim was another addition to Islamabad's imaginary lies. Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, along with the Army Chief, is on a two-day visit to Jammu and Kashmir. She visited the forward areas along the line of control in Kashmir. She will be reviewing the security situation along the line of control in the valley and the line of actual control in Ladakh. JKLF chairperson Yasin Malik has been arrested in Srinagar along with another party leader Bashir Ahmed. Both have been shifted to Srinagar Central Jail. This is the second time that Malik has been arrested this month. He was arrested on September 7th after announcing a protest outside NI headquarters in New Delhi. The United States, which is the latest entrant in the League of Oil Exporters, will be sending its first shipment of crude oil to India, which is the world's third largest oil importer. The shipment is expected to reach on October 2nd, a US official had said. Although Middle East will continue to be a preferred destination for India for its energy because of the short distance and shipping costs, but the US had said huge potential in terms of technology innovations. In a latest rift between the United States and Cuba, the US State Department has announced it's pulling 60% of its staff off the American embassy in Cuba. This in the wake of mysterious attacks that have affected 21 diplomats associated with the embassy and their families. In addition to ordering all personnel and their families to leave, the US will also suspend the processing of visas in Cuba. As vote for referendum in Catalonia is just a day away, Catalan leader makes it clear that his government is determined to go ahead with an independence vote on Sunday. This despite opposition from Madrid calling the vote illegal. The regional separatist government said more than 2,300 polling stations are ready for the referendum. Courts order police to cordon off schools scheduled to be used as ballot stations. In a bid to keep them open, parents have called for a mass school sleepover with tents and sleeping bags. Organizers say at least 60,000 people have already registered to participate. Meanwhile, to show support for the referendum, farmers drove down tractors onto the streets of Barcelona on Friday. Mass protests have been taking place in the region in recent days to oppose measures adopted by the Spanish government to stop the referendum. Supporters of Catalonia's independence gathered outside Barcelona's Palau National Art Museum on Friday for the campaign's closing rally ahead of the banned referendum on Sunday. Various musicians performed at the event, which was attended by hundreds of people. The United Nations Refugee Agency said refugee camps in Bangladesh are becoming more organized and turning into a series of communities. However, in Myanmar, lack of access to key areas such as the northern Rakhine state is severely disrupting humanitarian efforts to urgently reach those in need. Meanwhile, the United Nations World Food Programme spokesperson said they have resumed assistance to camps in the central Rakhine state and hope to reach 110,000 people there. Scaling up efforts, the UNICEF also arrived in the region. Meanwhile, more than 60 Rohingya refugees from Myanmar are believed to have drowned when their boat capsized. The refugees drowned in heavy seas off Bangladesh late on Thursday. This part of a new surge of people fleeing Myanmar. Rohingya Muslims living in Bangladesh camps sought divine intervention during Friday prayers to return safely to their homes in Myanmar and to become citizens of the country. Rohingyas prayed for peace and for Allah to create an opportunity for their dignified return. Amid the crisis, Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh have been making laundry soap in order to earn some money while sheltering at the camps in Cox's Bazar. The project, organized by the UNHCR, lets women earn about $12 a month working for local Bangladeshi company. The workers are on a rotation of 4 months. The United States said it doesn't recognize the independence referendum in Iraqi Kurdistan and urges an end to threats of reciprocal actions. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said the vote and the results lacked legitimacy and that US continues to support a united and federal Iraq. French President Emmanuel Macron offers to help ease tensions between Baghdad and the Kurdish regional government over the referendum vote held. He warns that any further escalation should be avoided. Macron's office has invited Iraqi Prime Minister to Paris on October 5th to discuss the issue, but warned that the two sides should remain united in their priority to defeat Islamic State and sterilize Iraq. U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price has resigned, this under pressure from President Donald Trump in an uproar over Price's use of private charter planes for government business. Price's abrupt departure was announced an hour after Trump said he was disappointed in Price's use of expensive plane travel. Amid crisis in the Korean Peninsula, Moscow has extended its support to Pyongyang. Russia said it is prepared to work with North Korea to try to find a peaceful resolution to the North Korean missile crisis. The European Commission is set to propose new rules next year to ensure that the online sector pays its fair share of taxes. Critics say online firms such as Google or Facebook pay too little tax in the European Union by routing profits to low-rate countries such as Luxembourg or Ireland. The EU has threatened to move ahead alone rather than wait for the world's rich nations to find an accord. German Chancellor Angela Merkel said on Friday she wanted to agree on a clear line on Eurozone reforms in talks on a new coalition government in Germany. She also commented on the ongoing Brexit negotiations, saying that British Prime Minister Theresa May's speech in Florence last week had contributed to giving the negotiations a new swing. French President Emmanuel Macron says that the European Union would be weakened if it agreed to discuss its future trading relationship with Britain before Brexit divorce terms are settled. Macron added discussions about a trade deal between Britain and the 27 remaining members should be undertaken at a later stage in the Brexit negotiations. A Russian cybercrime suspect told Greek judges on Friday that he had nothing to do with negotiations of masterminding a money laundering operation using Bitcoin. Alexander Winich was arrested on a U.S. warrant in a hotel in northern Greece in late July, and Russia has since also requested he be sent home on fraud charges. The judges are scheduled to announce their verdict on the U.S. request on October 4th. Several thousand people led by hardline Islamist groups held a rally on Friday outside Indonesia's parliament. This against the country's Communist Party and what they called a growing threat from its ideology in the world's most populous Muslim-majority country. Rows of police stood behind barbed wires with water cannons, but this rally was peaceful. The number of demonstrators were far smaller than the estimated tens of thousands expected by organizers and the police. The Lebanese government approved a new tax law on Friday to fund a public sector pay rise, signaling an end to a crisis that led many public sector workers to go on strike. The Constitutional Council had last week annulled a tax law that was designed to raise the revenues needed to finance the pay increase, which comes into effect in a few days' time. The International Committee of the Red Cross raised concerns on the rising cholera cases in Yemen. The Red Cross said the humanitarian situation in Yemen is a catastrophe and cholera cases there could reach 1 million by year-end. The organization said the disease is causing excessive civilian casualties. Sana'a Airport has been asked to open for commercial flights for aid supplies. Police officers on Friday removed a tent set up in Russian city of Nizi. This ahead of Kremlin critic Navalny's pre-election rally. Navalny, who was supposed to address the rally later in the day, had been detained as he was leaving his house in Moscow. Ukraine expressing disappointment said Russia left troops behind after staging war games in Belarus despite promising not to. Ukraine's commander-in-chief said Russia has withdrawn only a few units from Belarus and had lied about how many of its soldiers were there in the first place. Syria has struck a deal to buy 3 million tons of wheat from its ally Russia. This over 3 years and is working to secure credit finance from Moscow for the grain. Suicide attackers hit the Afghan city of Kabul on Friday near a large Shiite mosque, killing 6 and injuring 20. Security forces said at least 2 attackers were killed as they carried out the operations, apparently intended to hit the mosque. The Syrian army and its allies have secured the Palmyra to Deir al-Zor road, which is a major supply route from government territory to the eastern city. The Syrian army said it has defeated a strong Islamic State attack and secured the road. Islamic State's assault, which began on Thursday, marks its first major counter-attack against the Syrian army and its allies since they broke through a strip of territory to reach the city of Deir al-Zor earlier this month. The commander of Colombia's Marxist ELN rebels on Friday ordered fighters to begin a ceasefire this weekend. This as the group struggles through complicated peace talks with the government aimed at ending 5 decades of war. US President Donald Trump says Puerto Rico needs to work with the US government to determine how to fund rebuilding after Hurricane Maria and what to do about the territory's heavy debt load. Trump also said that US economic growth in the third quarter would likely be reduced by a hurricane that struck US territories in the Caribbean. Meanwhile, acting US Homeland Security Secretary said she was proud of the work being done to help Puerto Rico recover from Hurricane Maria, but that she and President Donald Trump would not be satisfied until the island was fully functional. On the contrary, the mayor of the capital of hurricane-ravaged Puerto Rico slammed Donald Trump, asking the US president to take charge and save lives. Maria, the most powerful storm to hit Puerto Rico in nearly 90 years, has killed at least 16 people on the island and more than 30 across the Caribbean. Following Mexico's devastating earthquake, thousands of Mexico City residents are awaiting building inspections to see if their homes and apartment buildings are safe for them to return. Meanwhile, some of those residents are foregoing shelters and sleeping in the streets nearby. Firefighters battled a fast-moving brush fire burning near Lombok in California on Friday. This is an effort to save nearby homes. Latest reports suggest 50 to 100 structures are threatened by the fire and evacuation orders have been issued. Nearly 41,000 individual wildfires of all sizes have scorched more than 6 million acres in the United States so far this year. China is now expecting more good news for bilateral relations with Japan. This after Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe attended a Chinese embassy reception marking the 45th anniversary of normalization of China-Japan diplomatic relations. China launched 3 remote sensing satellites on Friday on a long March 2C rocket from Xinjiang Satellite Launch Center. The 3 WION satellites will conduct electromagnetic probes along with other experiments. This launch is the 251st flight mission of the Long March rocket family. Fresh achievement of 5G technology and its integration with the Internet of Things have been in the spotlight at the ongoing expo in Beijing. More than 400 companies in the sector of information and communication technologies from over 10 countries and regions gathered for the event. Elon Musk's SpaceX company has shrunk the size of the rocket ship it's developing to go to Mars. This aiming to start construction on the first spaceship in the first half of next year. SpaceX plans its first trip to the Red Planet in 2022, carrying only cargo, to be followed by a manned mission in 2024. Activists collected 15 tons of plastic and other waste on Friday on the shores of Kola Bay in Russia's northwestern city of Murmansk, which is the largest city in the Arctic Circle with a population of 300,000 people. 500 local residents, volunteers and UN officials took part in the cleanup operation. Ten panda cubs on Friday delivered their cutest greetings for China's upcoming National Day, which falls on October 1st. The cubs, with some lying still on all fours, some running away and rolling down from the stage, amused many visitors. The 10 panda cubs, including 3 pairs of twins, are also the total that have been given birth in the breeding center by now in 2017, with another one born overseas in France. A huge crowd gathered in Geneva streets on Friday to watch an 8 meters high grandmother puppet and a 6 meters high girl articulated by tens of Lilliputians. The giants, created by a French street theatre group, stopped at various locations in Geneva to lick a lollipop, drive a scooter, and the giants were followed by a music band. Nozeda, the 7th music director of the National Symphony Orchestra in Washington, says art is above politics. The 53-year-old native of Milan has served as music director of the Teatro Regio Torino since 2007 and also serves as principal guest of the London Symphony Orchestra and the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra.